you something that's going around right now. A lot of this conversation about President Biden getting criticized from both sides of the aisle for pardoning his son Hunter after repeatedly saying he would never do it. And a lot of people are saying that it's hypocritical, et cetera, as if the other side doesn't do it. But what's your reaction to it?
I mean, I think all of the criticism is valid because, you know, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time. And, you know, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, you know, whether or not, you know, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now. But since they were calling Trump a threat to democracy, and they were saying that, you know, nobody's above the law, but they were speaking about him. That's what they were running on. So when he kept saying things like, oh, you know, nobody's above the law, I respect, you know, the jury's decision in regards to my son, he didn't believe that. But he didn't have to volunteer that lie to begin with.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Of course you are.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't.
I don't know in what universe Whoopi Goldberg lives in, but I think in any other universe, if you say one thing and you do another thing, that's a lie. There's no other way to call it. So, but I think what we are seeing is literally the hypocrisy of the Democrats, which for a long time, they've, like Charlamagne Tha God put it clearly, that they've put themselves on a certain pedestal, on a certain high moral ground. But I think that with almost every passing day, we see the hypocrisy come to the fore. So if Joe Biden said he was not going to pardon his son, then he does the opposite. He is definitely lying. But I think just the way that they are not even willing to accept the action that he did, that it was wrong, it looks like they are also not willing to just accept to say the man lied, which is just like straight up clear for everyone to see.
He didn't lie. He's just got an estranged relationship with the truth.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's a difference.
Yeah, probably he gave us a photoshopped version of the truth.
Exactly. A Photoshop. But it's so funny. It's like she was one of the top cheerleaders talking about you can't have Trump in the White House because he's a criminal, he's a felon, he's all of these things, and that the White House should be so much more. But when someone uses the White House's position to pardon a potential felon and a potential criminal, it's fine because, and we can't call it a lie, because that would be, you know, she's about to tell us why we can't call it a lie. I'd like to see how she manages to convince us this isn't a lie. So play the next bit.
We don't know why he changed
You really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a sudden?
No, I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
Okay. So her point is, because everyone else is crooks, why should I play the straight and honest path? That's the argument that she's trying to make. The mental gymnastics it would take to extrapolate that when Joe Biden hasn't said that's the reason. It's just a very creative way of trying to justify the unjustifiable. And this only happens with Democrats. And you know, black celebrities, I do not understand why the black celebrity class are so attached to the Democratic plantation. I do not understand it. What's fascinating about this is, you know our position on African Stream. We think the Republicans and the Democrats are two cheeks at the same backside. You know, it's a difference between the wolf and the fox. But the reason why these guys have got no moral clarity is because they paint one side as the devil and the other side as the saint. But what this has shown is both sides are as bad as each other. What do you think?
Exactly, I agree, and I think it's very ridiculous because her point is that if the Republicans are doing it, then probably Joe Biden, that gives him the right to do it. But then when their whole campaign was anchored on to say Donald Trump has got no morals, they try to cite cases, which is very correct. I mean, Donald Trump has got no morals. There's a litany of history showing that he's got no morals. But I think if the Democrats are going to set it as a standard, to say probably Trump will do worse, Trump has done worse, then it kind of absolves Joe Biden of or his action. It's deplorable. And I think you even see it in other topics. They'll say, wow, if maybe Trump was in the White House, he was going to give more bombs to Israel. So since us, we've given a certain amount of bombs, we are the better side. So I think it just shows how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. It reminds me, I hate to say this, but it's like Django Unchained, this Samuel L. Jackson character who just loves his white master so much. Leonardo DiCaprio can do no wrong, and he's trying to defend him to the very end. even at the risk to his own safety. Like, look, this clip of this freeze frame of Charlamagne is perfect. He's just kind of looking at her like, are you being serious right now? Like, what's going on?
And I mean, the argument is so ridiculous that I don't think she can repeat whatever she said, because it was very incoherent. She couldn't even tell what she was saying. So, like, she just had to say something. She just had to defend the point. So she was trying to defend the indefensible, and it just made her to look very ridiculous. And I wonder what she's even doing on TV.
And this is just my feeling, because at some point you get to the place where you just go, so I'm just going to follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that go out. They're the ones that go out there and they stand on this moral high ground. Listen, they don't have to do that.
I'm a Democrat. Tell me what the moral high ground is.
The moral high ground is nobody's above the law. I respect what the jurors are saying. He don't have to do that.
So we're mad at him because he changed his.
Oh no. By the way, I'm not mad at him pardoning Hunter Biden.
But you sound like you're mad.
No.
And also, I think people should be mad at him. Literally, I think to say, if you lie, if you're as a leader of a nation, you say another thing, and then you do another thing, people have got the right to be mad at you because, you're a liar, you're undeniable, people can't depend on you. So,
and worse than that, it hasn't been mentioned in this, and it's not going to be mentioned in this. He is the author of the 1994 crime bill, yeah? So he's the author of a bill which placed the discrepancy between crack cocaine and powdered cocaine, even though the same drug, because he knows crack cocaine is mainly in the black community, white cocaine is mostly in the white community. So the sentencing guidelines for this drug were so much harsher than they were for this drug. So rather than pardon his son, or further, let me go one further, now that he's pardoned his son, he's still got, I don't know how many days left in office, is it 30, 60, I'm not sure. He could go further and pardon some people who are still rotting in jail for taking crack cocaine, yeah, and then it wouldn't seem so bad. On top of that, how many black people have been on death row who he could have pardoned? We covered recently a brother who was on death row despite the victim's family saying they don't believe he's guilty, and he was sentenced to death. No pardon for this guy. Think of all of the people that he could pardon, and he goes for his son, who's smoking crack on camera, no regard for the law, no fear of consequences, because he probably knew one day his dad would be in a position of power and influence where he could get him off, and that's precisely what happened.
Yeah, true. And also I think, like, it has been mentioned to say, if it was in somewhere in the global south, people would have gone to town about how this is an example of why you should have USAID coming to hold workshops on democracy, of how that society is very undemocratic. But now we see it like literally on this country that for centuries has always said, you guys, you need to look at us, you guys, you need to learn democracy from us. Then we see literally which this is just a clear abuse of power. So anyway, let's continue.
If I can get in on this, I actually think it went further, and this is one thing we really disagree on. Joe Biden made a point of saying we stand by our institutions
Yes, I
and the
understand all that.
impartiality of the Department of
I understand all that, but I'll ignore all of that because it's not convenient to the argument.
Defending Biden is more important.
Indicted Hunter Biden. We shouldn't be saying it's corrupt like Donald Trump does, but then in his statement pardoning Hunter Biden, he says that it was a political pursuit by his own Department of Justice.
Can you explain to me why it is that when Joe Biden does something, everybody clutches their pearls? He's wrong.
Nobody
he lied.
has criticized Donald Trump more than me or Charlamagne Tha God.
I'm sorry. Yeah, people have criticized him more. I've criticized him more. We've all criticized him more, but you're missing my question.
Okay.
What's your question?
My question is, what is it that makes people flip out with Joe, but we don't have the same kind of thing?
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
She just said, we've all criticised Trump. I've criticised Trump. Charlamagne's criticised Trump, and the other host has criticised Trump. But what makes it worse when it's Joe Biden? But you've not demonstrated that it's any worse criticism that it's Joe Biden. All you've demonstrated is that you, yourself, have criticised Donald Trump, but when it comes to Joe Biden, you're willing to defend. So the only thing that needs to be questioned is, why is there the double standards for you, Whoopi Goldberg? Why is it okay when Joe Biden does something and not when... And I'd like to ask you, what do you think that's about? Is it about access? Is it that they think as like liberal celebrities, they're more likely to have access to a Democratic, person of influence than they would a Republican? So that way, whenever they do something wrong, they have to excuse, justify, and defend, because they're more likely to get a one-on-one interview. They're more likely to be invited to particular White House dinners and all this other stuff. Is that it, or is there something else going on?
I think to a large extent, that's what it is. And also, I don't know where they still get this illusion, like certain people, that they still have to say the Democrats, it stands for black people, it fights for the rights of black people. When over the years, over and over, the Democrats have literally proven that they are as bad as the Republicans, if not worse. So, and also just the
argument for them being worse isn't that they have worse policies, because I think Republicans probably do have worse policies. Yeah. It's the fact that time and time again, they get the black vote, they reach out to get the black vote. Joe Biden famously said, if you're not black if you don't know if you're voting for me or Donald Trump, but then do nothing. Do nothing. Absolutely offer nothing. At least with the Republicans, they promise nothing, they deliver nothing. Yeah, they promise nothing, they deliver nothing. So I think, but the Democrats in election season, they promise the moon, the sun, the stars, and the sea, and deliver absolutely nothing. You get an anti-Asian hate crime bill, which is good. You got, under Obama's presidency, same-sex marriage. You got all these things for certain communities, but you got absolutely nothing specifically for people of African descent. Specifically, people of African descent whose ancestors built the country. No reparations bill, no restitution, no addressing the redlining and the discrimination in terms of housing, Jim Crow, nothing at all. And yet they always still get the black vote. They get the black vote for nothing. And this is what Malcolm said in the bullet or the ballot. He said, we have enough power to swing any election. The problem is we don't leverage our power. We don't say, this is what we want as a community. Deliver this for us, or otherwise we're withholding a vote. So people like Whoopi Goldberg advocates giving Democrats your vote for free and receiving absolutely nothing for it. The disproportionality in terms of the prison industrial complex is never addressed. The slave-like conditions that people working in prison for pennies on the dollar is never addressed. Nothing is given for our vote, and nothing is ever received because we don't demand anything.
I agree with you. I agree with you strongly. And it's the reason why I thought that, bro, the Democrats are worse, because it's like, you are the danger of being devoured by lions. Then you meet two vehicles that are broken down. The other guy says, look, bro, you can give me a push, but I'm not promising that I'm going to give you a ride. Then the other guy says, yeah, give me a push. The moment the engine goes on, you're getting a seat. But the moment the engine goes on, you see the guy driving away. So literally, there's a certain amount of betrayal where someone has promised something in exchange. Then they don't give it to you. The one who didn't promise, they are bad from the onset. But they kind of made it clear that there's no seat for you at the table.
Yes. So the analogy that Malcolm gave, which is brilliant, he says a Republican is like the wolf. So a wolf growls and snarls, so you keep your distance because if you get too close, he'll bite you. The Democrats are like foxes. They smile only to show you their teeth, and then that's when they get in within distance and bite you. Yeah, at the last moment. So he goes, he always preferred a wolf because he knows where he stands with a wolf than he with a fox.
You won't get within 10 meters of it.
Yes.
Okay, that's wrong.
I don't think people are flipping out with Joe. I think Democrats are flipping out with Joe because Democrats believe that they don't represent what he's currently representing. But that's just not true. That's why I say they stand on this moral high ground that simply does not exist. And I think this is also the problem when we pick sides, right? We've turned political parties into teams. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. Ain't nobody more delusional than me, right? Okay? I feel like we're going to the Super Bowl every year, but I'm not delusional. Well, no, that is delusional. But when it comes... But when it comes to political parties, if you pick a side, right, if you say you're a Democrat, if you say you're a Republican, you refuse to be objective about anything.
That's why I'm an independent.
Yes, but that's not a monolith. We're not, Democrats are not a monolith.
But why can't you say when Democrats are wrong? And why can't Republicans say when Republicans are wrong?
I'll tell you when Democrats are wrong.
So you don't think Joe Biden is wrong?
No, I don't. And can I just point this out to you?
The
president has authoritative power.
I'll tell you when Democrats are wrong. So is Joe Biden wrong for pardoning his son after saying numerous occasions, and his White House press secretary saying numerous occasions that they won't pardon? No.
No. I think even she was just trying to reduce the heat, man, because she's getting cooked. So she was finding a way of like reducing the heat, such.
Just very quickly, can you reframe it in this way? Think about it maybe in this way. The president has the ultimate pardon power. Every president has done this, right?
Yeah.
And so people are saying is that Joe Biden is now a liar, as opposed to Joe Biden is someone who now knows that the person that is going to be in the White House is on a revenge tour and his son is on an enemies list. And so he is using his rightful power, his rightful political power, to pardon his son. Now, is that a lie, or is that perhaps being pragmatic, having a change of opinion, as opposed to the president-elect who has lied almost 40,000 times during his first term?
Well, I can't say what it is because
So
I'm not in
who has the moral high ground? Like, what's the faux outrage?
neither one of them have the moral high ground. That's what I'm trying to get everybody to understand. But when you are a diehard Democrat or a diehard Republican, you refuse to be objective about the other party. Like it's like we're watching them do something wrong, but we're making excuses for it. We watch Republicans do things wrong and they make excuses for it. Why can't we just all be objective and call it what it is?
Because it's not balanced.
It's not the same. What's the difference? Because if the Democrats are going to do something wrong and you defend it, then you find it ridiculous that when Republicans do something wrong, when Trump does something wrong, the Republicans defend it. But you're saying, no, it's not the same. So it's the same thing where I've said the Democrats, they always think their sins or their crimes are crime light. You know, like you've got the actual crime, whatever, for the Republicans. Then they think they do things at, I don't know, the lesser aggressive scale. Probably they don't recognize it, but they've got a way of, let's say the Republicans will do this, we'll also do it, but maybe we won't go that far.
Yeah. I mean, the larger point of this, the whole clip when I'm watching it, it reminds me of that clip with Minister Louis Farrakhan and William Wallace, where he's saying to William Wallace, representative, saying, you go to Nigeria, the most corrupt nation in the world, and then Farrakhan responds and says, why would you call Nigeria the most corrupt nation in the world? He goes, could you think of a more corrupt one? He goes, yeah, I'm living in one.
You go to Nigeria, which is, if not the most corrupt nation in Africa, and it could be the most corrupt nation in the world, Minister Farrakhan.
Oh, now, Mr. Wallace.
It is the most corrupt nation that I have ever covered.
You're not in any moral position to tell anybody how corrupt they are. You should be quiet and let those of us who know our people go there and help them get out of that condition. But America should keep her mouth shut wherever there's a corrupt regime, as much hell as America has raised on the earth.
The US is the most corrupt nation in the world. Let's just call it what it is. They manipulate the International Criminal Court to go after their enemies. But when it goes after their allies, they say it doesn't matter and they ignore it. They're not a signatory to the ICC because they didn't want to be charged with the crimes that they committed in Nicaragua.
Actually, ignoring it.
But then they weaponize the ICC. They sanction the judges of the ICC for daring to investigate the US in Afghanistan and Iraq, but also now investigating Israel. They fail year on year their own, they fail to report an audit for the Pentagon, despite it having between 810 to 1 trillion annual budget. So this money, this annual budget, which is up to $1 trillion, no one knows what they're spending it on. I'll tell you what they're probably spending it on. Regime change operations, covert operations, trying to overthrow this government here, trying to overthrow this Latin American government there. And then, on top of that, we have a President, Donald Trump, who while running, has all these criminal charges. We have another President-elect Donald Trump. We have a sitting president, Joe Biden, who brings forward a crime bill to punish people for smoking crack cocaine and distributing crack cocaine, but then pardons his own son for doing precisely that. And despite, on several occasions, I think there's more than 8 times, him and his White House press secretary say they wouldn't do that. They respect the jury. They respect the independent judiciary. So this is the most corrupt nation in the world. And we've not even touched on the 1,000 military bases, the military base in Diego Garcia, when indigenous people are moved away off an island off the coast of Africa to make way for an American military base. The fact that this is the only country in the world to drop nuclear weapons on a group of people. The fact that they're currently funding, aiding and abetting a genocide in Gaza. This is the most corrupt nation in the world. I couldn't give a damn about Whoopi Goldberg or The View or any of this stuff. This is just us using this as propaganda to make the point that the US is corrupt. And from now on, I don't want to hear Africa being synonymous with corruption. When we talk about corruption, the US should be the first name to roll off the lips.
I agree with you. I strongly agree with you. And I think just the point that you brought out on the ICC, we saw the hypocrisy last year. If you remember, there's an arrest warrant for Putin. South Africa was taken to the cleaners because everyone was saying, if you don't arrest Putin, you're violating your obligations, international law, your morals are upstanding, and this country that is known as the country of Mandela, so you've got all this moral responsibility to make sure you arrest Putin. 1 year down the line, the switch flips. Yes. And the USA, literally, they've not only threatened sanctions. I mean, it's the only country where they had to come up with a law that would allow them to invade The Hague to kind of pull out their people in the event that they're arrested. Imagine if a country like North Korea threatened to say, if one of our leaders gets arrested, we're going to invade The Hague. Yeah. It was going to be painted in a certain light to say, this is a rogue nation and whatever, this nation poses a threat to humanity, like they put it. But then the Americans, when they do it, somehow they think it's something that should be accepted to the world, and that's something that is normal.
Yeah, and more recently, they funded the Mujahideen in Afghanistan to defeat the Soviets. And they had, I think it was the Washington Post, that famous article with Osama bin Laden holding the AK-47, calling him a freedom fighter. Only then to launch a so-called war on terror, devastate the Middle East, or West Asia as it's more appropriately called, invade Afghanistan, invade Iraq, and then in 2011, they support these same terrorists to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. And what we're seeing right now is they're supporting these same terrorists, the HTS, which is an offshoot of Al-Qaeda. They're supporting again to overthrow Assad. So they fight, they launch a phony war on terror to fight terrorists, only to then support terrorists to remove their geopolitical enemies in the region, whether it be Gaddafi or Bashar al-Assad. And now we just saw CNN interviewing Giuliani, but CNN just last week interviewed him as if he's some sort of statesman. Yeah. Now, could you imagine after the Manchester bombing, us doing an interview with like a Salman Abedi, or after the Paris attacks, like the hypocrisy, the double standards, the corruption needs to be called out once and for all. And I think with the advent of social media, more and more people are waking up, and shows like The View are just becoming. What happens, I only actually ever see Whoopi Goldberg when people are doing a reaction video, because she comes up with such nonsensical takes that you only see it when someone's mocking the take, not the original clip itself.
So I guess we could go for the whole day, because the ridiculous amount of things that are being produced in the US is like none-ending. Probably that's the only thing where they can beat China in production, because China's whooping their in producing almost everything. So we end it here. I've been Clinton Zala.
Ahmed Cabello. Peace, man. Don't forget the peace.